All right, we have made it to Wednesday, people halfway through the week. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you guys being here. We're going to be back in the studio tomorrow, so we should have phone calls back again. Remember your comments. We want to read them live. If you donate and it's on that topic we're talking about, we will read it at that time. If not, we will read it at the end. Obviously, got a lot to get to today. We got the college football playoff reveal that came out. I do want to say this. I know the election was last night. A lot of people are tired of politics, and we just want you guys to know that, again, we are a space that we welcome everybody. We don't care who you voted for. We just, the only vote I'm worried about right now is the Broyles Award one. We'll see how that goes. So we appreciate all you guys being here. There is one note I do want to say about the whole thing, and it's not about one side or the other. It's that I think last night was great for for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons, and I'm not talking about who won or who lost, was I think the mainstream media died a little bit yesterday, last night. And what I hope, and I think what we hope here is, because we're not at ESPN, we're not at CBS, we're not quote unquote mainstream sports media, that even though we have a big audience, but we hope that shift continues, because we think this is the new media. This is the content that more people want because it's real. It's genuine. We may not agree on stuff. We're going to always tell you what we really think, but we're not going to lie to your face. We're not going to gaslight you. We're not going to try and get you in a frenzy by just reaching. And if we have a hot take, it's because we actually believe it. I really hate that term. So, David, again, I don't know, what y'all think about it, but what I'm hoping is the mainstream media death that we're seeing politically, I hope it comes to fruition in the sports media realm as well. And y'all are the ones, the audience, that drive that by subscribing and by sharing the show.
That's true. And that's the phrase you use. That's what it is. New media. I mean, the advent of technology has allowed us to do things like this, to get the information that we have in our brains and the charisma that we try and put forth together as a show to people and let them decide. This is democracy, right? Like, do you want to consume legacy media content, or do you want to consume content by new media? And I think that played a huge role last night.
Yeah, and Blaine, I hope it keeps going.
Yeah, and I do want to take a second really quickly to just thank both of you for the messaging. It was a huge win for women yesterday in sports. I really believe that, and y'all two were at the forefront of it, including myself, and we know where we stand on that with this show. So I just want to thank you guys for doing that, standing by it when it wasn't the cool thing to do.
Yeah. And again, that's something I think it's like 99% of people agree on. But we got a great show for you. We got to get into some college football stuff. We're going to get into the chat as well. We react to the reveal. You're going to see what we think. We're going to preview some more of the big college football games, because we got more than just a couple in the SEC this weekend. And as usual on Wednesday, we're going to give you our NFL best and NFL worst. This is the Wednesday with an eye edition of Crane and Company. The first playoff rankings, it's kind of like a first kiss. It's fun. It's important. You like to go tell your buddies about it, but there's way more cool stuff coming down the pipe. So I know there are a lot of people that are happy in some spots, upset in others about what the College Football Playoff Committee gave us last night. We're going to put the top 25 that was revealed yesterday up and then show you how that looks in the College Football Playoff ranking format. But the thing I'm looking for over the next couple weeks, and we could get a little taste of it this week, but we're not going to know until we get a couple of these, isn't just who is where, but why they are there. What is the methodology of the committee? What is the formula that they are using to make these decisions? And will they stay consistent with it? Will they use that same methodology for the first reveal as they will on the fourth? Because it's the umpire rule to me. If you're going to give 6 inches on the outside corner, give it to both teams and for 9 innings. If you're going to use a formula to have the first playoff ranking reveal, use that same formula for the fourth and the fifth. So that's all I ask for is consistency. I want to dive right into this. I want to go ahead and bring in David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane. And guys, I want to go ahead and put up that graphic. Let's put up the top 25 that was revealed last night. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but I want to show the people, and then I want to get a reaction. So, Justine, go ahead and put that top 25 graphic up right now just so the people can see it before I kick it over to David. I'll give you the top 15 quickly. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, BYU 9, Notre Dame 10, Bama 11, Boise 12, SMU 13, Texas A&M 14, and LSU 15. We'll get to the playoff format here in a second, and I want to give you my thoughts in a second. But, David, I want to start with you because their top 12 was very close to our top 12 that we put out before the reveal yesterday. So it's kind of hard for me to sit here and argue this thing when it's as close to our model as it was. I do have a couple things, but what was a couple glaring things that you see, whether it be good, whether it be bad, or just in the methodology of it? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm glad you hit on that point. I'm pretty proud of our list, honestly, especially after watching this. We take very careful consideration when we're putting those lists together, and you can argue any point on any list, right? That's kind of what these things are made for. But I really do think that we were pretty spot on with a lot of things, and I think that the committee, I like where they're headed right now because clearly they are valuing strength of schedule, but then they're also valuing being undefeated, even if you're a non-traditionally big brand team. So a couple things here. One, they did prioritize Georgia over Miami, with Georgia at 3 and Miami at 4. Remember, we went back and forth on that a little bit, and we put Miami up there being undefeated right now, even though there's some questions on defense. Clearly, the committee went with a 7-1 Georgia team over a 9-0 Miami team. If you're Miami, though, I don't think you're that upset about it, right? You're in the top 4, and all your business is still ahead of you. And then the 3 one-loss teams in a row before you get to the undefeated Indiana at 9-0 and BYU at 8-0, and those 3 teams are obviously Texas, Penn State, and Tennessee. So there's a little bit of this, hey, we are going to take into consideration strength of schedule and who you lost to, and losing to good teams matters, but also we're not going to be afraid of putting Indiana and BYU up there just because they're not traditional blue blood powerhouse teams.
I agree 100%. Blaine, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with some of that too, but I will say this: I don't know how BYU's at 9. All right, if we are doing strength of schedule and best wins, there's no reason that Indiana should be in front of BYU. BYU has 2 top 20 wins against SMU, which is a good ball club, beat the hell out of Kansas State. And I know it's a new team, but go look at Tennessee. I know it's an SEC team, but if we're going off strength of schedule, right, and the best wins, BYU should not be number 9 on this list.
Yeah, where would you have them?
Yeah,
I would have them probably right now 6.
Well, I wrote down 3 things. And the first thing I wrote down, and this goes for all of it, and I want to give you another example here in a second, is obviously the committee does not respect the Big 12. If we're going to have a competition between the ACC and Big 12, because, I think we can all agree the SEC and the Big 10 we feel like are the 2 better conferences. It's not just that BYU is at 9. Iowa State lost 1 game and they're at 17. If you're going to say, well, being undefeated matters a ton, and you put Miami at 4, then how is BYU, who is leading the Big 12, remember Miami's leading the ACC, how is BYU, who is leading the Big 12 and is undefeated, all the way back at 9, and then Iowa State all the way back at 17. Then you got Kansas State at 19, Colorado at 20. You can say what you want about that, but obviously the committee yesterday showed that they believe the order is this. The Big 10, the SEC, the Big 12 and the ACC. Maybe you can make an argument that they think the SEC and the Big 10's even, or maybe even the SEC is a little bit better or thicker in the middle. I don't know, but you can obviously see the blatant disrespect to the Big 12. And you know what? I think some of it's warranted. I would put the Big 12 last 2 right now, I think, overall. The second thing I wrote down was, well, since Boise State starts at 12, if they win out, which they should, that means we're going to have a group of 5 team in the top 12 every single week. So they are basically signaling to you that Boise State is going to be that group of 5 team that gets in. And we're probably going to have them in every single ranking. If they would have started at 14, that would have been interesting to me. But they could have. You look at Alabama, they got to play LSU. A lot of things are going to shake out. I just didn't know if they were going to say, all right, since we have to have a group of 5 team that makes the playoff, we're going to start one. I don't think it's a coincidence it's at 12.
Yeah, right at 12.
Yeah. So I don't think that's coincidence. And the third thing is They were asked yesterday, I forgot who it was on the committee was asked, does the conference championship game loser, how are you going to weigh that? That is a question that we have asked on this show almost every single day, and you got a very political non-answer. It was kind of a, eye test, which you can manipulate that in many different ways. I've talked about the methodology. It needs to be a formula of strength of schedule, eye test, and we go back and forth there. So we still don't have a concrete answer on that. And guys, we're not going to get one until they show us. So we might as well stop asking the question. We can talk about it. That's fine. But I was glad they asked it. That was one of the main things I was hoping that they would ask. So those are the three things that I wrote down. I will say this as well when I look at this. A lot of it's going to work itself out. Okay, Georgia has to play Tennessee. Alabama has to play LSU. Texas has to play Texas A&M. We still have to have conference championship games. This, that, and the other. What I find the most fascinating coming down the stretch is if you are a team that you think may be on the bubble. Because right now, I don't think Penn State's on the bubble. When I look at Penn State's schedule, I think they're going to finish 11-1. I think they're not going to play in the Big Ten championship game, and they are going to be a host team in the playoff, and we're going to get to that playoff format in a second. But if you are a team that thinks you may be on the bubble, Tennessee, right? Whoever wins, the Alabama, LSU, whatever, it doesn't matter. You are actively rooting against Notre Dame because Notre Dame is a bid stealer in this format. Now, I want to make a comparison to college basketball, and then I'll get back to y'all. I don't want to be too long-winded here, but I think this is an apt comparison. We see this in the NCAA basketball tournament. They're called bid stealers. We see a team out of the MEAC, right, that goes almost undefeated the whole year. And they're going to get an at-large bid, but then they lose to like St. Francis, PA in the conference tournament in the championship game. And therefore, St. Francis, PA gets in the tournament and they do as well, which knocks out a bubble team. Notre Dame, even though they're a huge brand, I'm not saying they are a MEAC version of college football. They are a bid stealer if they go 11-1. 11-1 is getting Notre Dame in. So if you are worried about your team, if you're maybe SMU, that's worried if we get to the conference championship game and lose it and go 11-2, are we going to get in? I don't know if Notre Dame gets in. So that's who I would be watching. A lot of people are going to be Army fans because Notre Dame's going to beat the shit out of Florida State this weekend, and we all know that. So, David, just having said that, is there anything there you disagree with? Is there anything else that you think may be egregious here or what?
No, interesting points there. So I want to hit on Notre Dame and I want to hit on the group of five quickly. So as far as Notre Dame goes, you got to like where you are at 10 right now. I mean, you have a great win on the road to start the season at Texas A&M, and then you have one of the worst losses that we've seen against Northern Illinois. And the math equation that you're talking about and that we've been breaking down for Notre Dame is sort of, okay, look, at 11-1, they're going to make the college football playoff. I was talking about it today down at Mission Cigar Bar. Everybody agrees. 11-1, Notre Dame's going to get in. I don't care if it was to Northern Illinois or by how many points. 10-2, though, you're not going to get in because you don't play that conference championship game.
And you lost.
Even though,
that's where that hurts.
Yeah, and even though that final game is against USC is down right now. They just made a change at quarterback. So while it is a great big brand rivalry game, you're not going to have that benefit. So we've been breaking that down this whole time, right? But at 10 right now, you have to say, okay, look who's ahead of us. 4 of these teams are going to play each other. Right? Indiana's going to play the Buckeyes. Georgia's still going to play Tennessee. So if we're at 10 right now, and we already know we have to win the rest of our games, right? We already can't lose or we're not going to be in this thing no matter what. Then all you can do really is start to climb, because if you even move up one spot, if you're in the 5, 6, 7, or 8, well, they need to move up 2 spots from 10. But if you can get up 2 spots with all those teams ahead of you, then Notre Dame could not only make the playoff, but you would end up hosting in South Bend, which I think, that would be a really cool scenario for Notre Dame fans. Obviously, like you said, everyone else is pulling against you. Now, in the group of 5, I'm glad you brought that point up because it's just so funny to look down and see Boise State right at 12. I just wonder if the committee felt the need to put Boise State in the top 12 because that's their top group of 5 team right now, and there has to mandatory be a group of 5 team in this year's college football playoff. Or, if they had been at 15, and maybe we can get Justine to bring up how the bracket would look right this second if this were to play play out in the college football playoff format. Yeah, there it is right now. So you can see the 5-12 matchup with the Buckeyes and Boise State. If you put Boise at 15, right, they would still usurp whoever was at 12 because you have to have the group of 5 playoff. And then the question becomes, okay, well, what happens if one of these teams who's ranked below Boise State ends up upsetting and winning their conference, but can't jump Boise State? All of a sudden, you're going to have the group of 5 team in the first year of the playoff get one of the first 4 buys, and one of the Power 4 conferences is going to be playing an opening weekend.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I got a group of 5 question I want to ask you guys as well, but I want to go through, guys, and this is going to change. But if you're on audio, I want to read you the matchups that we would get right now in the college football playoff if it ended today. So if you're in audio listening, obviously visually, if you're watching, you can see this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to get to the chat in a second. But here's the matchups, okay? In the 8-9 matchup, Tennessee is hosting Indiana.
Yeah.
That'd be an incredible atmosphere, and I think it would be a hell of a game. In the 7-10 matchup, Notre Dame would be going to Happy Valley to play Penn State in what I guarantee you would be a whiteout. I don't care what anybody says. It would be a whiteout. Then you go down to the 6-11 matchup. Bama goes to Texas. I shouldn't even have to say anything after that. All right, that's like watching Godzilla fight King Kong. And then you got Boise State would go to Ohio State. That running back matchup between what Ohio State has and Ashton Genty at Boise State would be phenomenal. So the winner of the Tennessee-Indiana game would play Oregon. Buckle up for that one. The winner of the Penn State-Notre Dame game would play Georgia. The winner of the Texas-Alabama game would play Miami. And Ohio State would play BYU if they beat Boise, which they probably would. Fellas, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to change, but you can go ahead and sign me up for that, Cuzzo.
Pour it all over me. I want every bit of it, Coney.
Yeah, and I don't know who would win right now out of Tennessee and Indiana. I honestly don't. I don't know who would win out of Penn State and Notre Dame, or even Texas and Alabama. And how about that one right there? How fun would it be to see Texas and Alabama play for a 3rd straight year? They had the home and home the last 2 years. They're now in the same conference. Don't match up this year in SEC play. Probably won't be playing in the SEC championship game. And yet there's still a scenario where they could play in the college football playoff.
Anyway, this thing ends up, we're going to get mega matchups, and that's why they did it, and that's why they're going to expand it after they see all this money roll in and all these games. But I do want to ask you, Blaine, I want to ask you this, and then I want to get to the chat.
Okay.
Explain to me why Boise State, I know that one loss is at Oregon. It's the best loss you could possibly have right now, is at 12, yet Army is undefeated, and they're all the way back at 25.
No idea. I can't sit here and give you an honest answer for this.
And I'm not saying Army should be in front of them, but that's a 13 spot difference. That's about as big of a gap as you can get in a top 25 ranking.
Just makes no sense. I'm still on the boat that you shouldn't get a participation trophy to get into the playoffs. You shouldn't. You should be a top 12 team to get into the playoff. Doesn't matter if you're a group of 5, Power 4, the top 12 teams need to get in. You didn't just because you showed up doesn't mean you did it. Yeah. All right, you have to go earn it. And Boise State's a damn good football team. Your one loss was against Oregon on the road by a field goal, which a couple special teams plays doesn't happen. You might win that game. And right now, if we go through the year, do y'all think Boise State will end up being a top 12, a best 12 team in the country? No, you don't. You don't.
I don't think they're better than Texas A&M. I don't think they're better than LSU. I don't think they're better than Ole Miss. But again, when you automatically give somebody a spot, this is what we have to deal with. That's why I'm going to go back to, there's a reason Boise's at 12 with a 12-team playoff, and Army is all the way back at 25. So to me, what if Army, they still control their own destiny. If they beat Notre Dame, Army's going to jump Boise State. And maybe that's, if there is chaos, maybe that's the only route that we could possibly have 2 group of 5 teams in, even though I think those percent chances are minimal at best, and probably is not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, though, because that's another point here, not just the possibility of Boise State winning out and getting one of those first 4 spots rather than being the 12 seed. But yeah, what happens if they win out and a team like Army wins out? If that happens, Army's going to have a great win over who? They're going to have a great win over Notre Dame. Now, that's going to knock Notre Dame out of the playoff, I believe. And if Army wins out and wins their conference and Boise State wins out, you're not giving Boise State a chance to drop back at all. And that's a scenario where could we see 2 group of 5 teams make it in the first year?
I don't know. Chat, what do they think?
All right, Chad, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate on topic, it will get read. We're going to start the day off with FC. What's up, brother? Says, I might be in the minority here, but I think the top 4 college football playoff spots should always include 4 different conference representatives. At least one G5 team should be in the top 12 each week.
To your first point, they are 4 different conferences. Are you saying automatically the power conferences, you don't think that a group of 5 teams should finish in the top 4? And to be honest with you, I don't mind that. Now, I still think the possibility of that is very, very low. Say what you want about the Big 12, and we talked about the disrespect we thought we saw from the committee and that we did see. And I side with Blaine on this, though. Like, I don't feel like you should just get a spot because you are a group of 5 team. I can understand why one of the top 4 spots in the bye goes to the conference championship winner of each Power 4 conference. That makes sense to me. And I'm not saying that there aren't group of 5 teams that are a top 12 team in the country. But we saw Cincinnati get in when there was only 4. We've expanded the playoff. Therefore, we've expanded the opportunity for the group of 5 to get in without having to automatically put them in there. I'm for meritocracy. Does group of 5 get the short end of the stick more than the Power 4 does? Yes, but that's how life works. That's how it works. It's part of it. So I'm actually with Blaine on that. And I coached at a group of 5. I love group of 5, the Sun Belt, the MAC, the American, all that stuff. I love it, but I don't think you should get an automatic spot just because you're the little guy. I think you should have to earn it just like everybody else.
Let's go to Shadow 830. What's up, man? He says, who's the scariest team right now in the playoff bracket?
In the one that we just put up?
Correct, Coach.
Bring it back up.
I mean, I don't know how you say it's not Oregon, but that's a cop-out, and we're not going to give you cop-outs here. To me, I think the scariest team is Tennessee. And I say it for this reason. I think they got the best defense in the country. You can say what you want. Ohio State's up there too. I think you can put Ohio State. There's a couple of others up there, and there's not a bad defense outside of Miami's, I think, on this list. But when I'm looking for growth still at this point in the season, right? Because teams keep evolving. So we always talk about who is that complete team in all 3 phases that's elite in 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 3. The closest we got to that right now, I think, is Oregon. But when I look at Tennessee with that elite defense, I think the growth potential offensively is still there. I thought, and I'll continue to say, against Kentucky, Nico had one of his best games throwing the ball. They just had a bunch of drops. Guys got to make the catches. Now, they haven't been able to be on the same page a lot this year, but as far as which team could grow enough, on their weakest side of the ball to become that complete team outside of Oregon, I still think Tennessee is really dangerous.
Well, if you force me to pick a team off the bracket as it sits right now, the first week of the rankings here, then I would pick the Buckeyes. I mean, first of all, they're a really good team to start with. And 2, I don't think they've played their best football yet. They're well coached, and I do think that they're going to continue to get better week to week as November moves forward. And just the way that this bracket goes here, they'd meet up with Boise State first, like we talked about. I think they win that football game. And then you'd get to play the Big 12 representative, which right now in this one is BYU. I think they'd have a really good shot to be in the semifinal game playing, who would that be? The 1 seed, I guess. So Oregon in this scenario, if they were to beat Tennessee or Indiana.
I agree with that.
Let's go to Smith Tenney. What's up? He says, what chance do you fellas have BYU realistically, and shoot it to me straight, to win the national championship?
They're not going to win the national championship, but again, I hate to say, I'll never say never, but out of the 4 teams we just pulled up there that get the bye, and really, there's a reason that we had them ranked where we had them ranked, and there's a reason where the playoff committee had BYU ranked where they had them ranked, right? And even the AP poll. BYU to me is dangerous because they're not elite at anything. They're just really good at everything. And Retzlaff isn't turning the ball over. I could say there's some similarities for Indiana, but I think there's some spots where BYU isn't as prolific. I've been so impressed with the defense, though. As far as winning a game in the playoff, I don't think they get past Ohio State. But at this point, if you're a BYU fan, just like Indiana, you didn't expect this. Most of you didn't, at least. Right? You're playing with house money. I mean, they were talking about your head coach being on the hot seat this year. You have brought back stability. Not only that, you have gone into the Big 12, and out of all the new teams that entered, Houston, UCF, go down the list, You are the one that has risen to the top so far, including Utah, a team that we had a ton of respect for, and that is your arch rival. So do I think you're going to win the national championship? No. Do I think you're going to win the Big 12? Yes. And at this point, just let what's going to happen. It's already been a big success. That's just where I sit on it, my friend.
I would say that BYU has the same chances of winning the national championship that Lloyd Christmas had of getting with Mary Swanson in Dumb and Dumber. But then again, Jim Carrey really did marry her in real life, and the way college football is going right now, I mean, sure, probably 1 in 5, I guess, are the odds.
Yeah. I was going to see Hutch. What's up, man? He says those teams above Boise had better not overlook them in the playoff. They have a record of beating elite teams. Historically, this is undeniable. I wouldn't be surprised if they took out a big dog.
I don't think I'd be shocked. I think it depends on the big dog. Ashton Genty is what makes that team go. We know that. But I'm not as worried about Boise's offense as I am defensively. Right? That's where you're going to find out if you're Boise. It's being able to stop the run if you do run into an Ohio State, right? If you do run into a team that is really talented up front. But I wouldn't put anything past Boise. Believe me, I saw him in the Fiesta Bowl. You'll never have to convince me to not take Boise seriously. But I do think it's going to be very hard for anybody to overlook anybody in the first year of the college football playoff or in the college football playoff in general. But nothing would shock me at this point. But all right, we got to move on. Remember, if you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. But hey, maybe you want to go to a playoff game because some teams get to host them. Maybe you want to go to a concert because we all know going to a live sporting event or a live event, that's the best way to do it. That's the most fun you're going to have. And what if I gave you a way to be able to filter out all the fluff when you're trying to find the best deal for the best seat? What if I gave you a way to actually see the view from your seat before you sat down? Tell somebody that was born in the 1930s that. They'll freak out. Well, guess what? I can with our friends over at Game Time. Game Time, it is the best way. It takes the guesswork. It takes all the busy work out of finding tickets to the events you want to go to, whether it be music, concerts, games, whatever sport, it doesn't matter. You download the Game Time app, you create an account, you use code BOOSTER, and you get $20 off your first purchase. I'm telling you, if we always say work smarter, not harder. All right, even up to an hour before the event, you can get these tickets. Like here in Tennessee, we got the NFL, we got the NHL, we got country music, we got college football, we got a little bit of everything. I could probably find a giraffe fighting a polar bear somewhere around here if I look long enough. And if that's going on, Game Time has a ticket for it. So download that app, use that code BOOSTER, get $20 off. All right, boys, let's get into some previews before we get back to the chat and then talk a little NFL.
All right, first one up here. Let's go to the Big Ten. We've been talking about Indiana being undefeated, 9-0. They are going to host Michigan this weekend. Michigan 5-4. They lost 3 of their last 4. That line right now, -14 Indiana. And keep in mind, not only has Indiana been winning all their games, they've been demolishing teams. But that line, that's still a big line. -14 at home. Over under right now is 49.5.
Yeah, and I mean, who'd have thought we'd be having this conversation at this point? Indiana has been one of the most consistent teams in the country. I talk about, the 3 phases. Again, they're really good in all of them. They're playing some of the best complementary football in the country. That's why they're able to have a backup quarterback come in, even in a big game, and not only survive, but thrive. We saw what they're able to do against Michigan State last week, and if you've watched them play, they've got good enough personnel, but what separates them is they're unbelievably fundamentally sound and they're disciplined. This team understands how to play football. I don't think we talk about that enough. We say it's the ultimate team sport. You got to move as one organism. But when you watch them, they do the little things right. They take the right angles on defense. They don't bust coverages. Offensively, they understand how to get yards after contact. They don't reach for too much when they don't need to. All right, but they also don't play it too safe. I think Indiana continues to be Indiana. And if you're Michigan at this point, David, the season's kind of gone off the rails. You got some older guys that are going to the NFL. You look at Will Johnson and some of these other guys. How long are you going to hold the rope? Not that I think there's culture problems at Michigan. I think that's the natural human condition, especially when you're coming off a year where you went undefeated and won a national championship. I think Indiana gets up 10 points in the first half. I think they probably actually cover in this game. More, not just because Michigan isn't typical Michigan, but Indiana's not typical Indiana.
Yeah, you're exactly right there. I mean, some of Michigan's best players are going to be playing in the NFL in a couple months. And now that they're not playing for a conference title, now that they're not playing for a college football playoff spot, I just wonder how many of those guys are going to be out there to give Michigan the opportunity that they need to pull an upset like this. Blaine, 14 points. It seems like a lot, but keep in mind, Indiana beat Michigan State on the road 47-10. Michigan beat Michigan State in Ann Arbor only by 7. And there's another common opponent, which is Washington. Indiana beat them by 14 points. Michigan lost to them by 10.
I never thought I'd sit here and say this. This game could get ugly, and it could get ugly for Michigan. Indiana has a really good chance to beat their ass for 4 quarters. The biggest surprise to me, you go look at the Michigan team. Michigan on defense with the names that they have were solid all across the board. Right now, Michigan's ranked 91st in pass defense. That's unacceptable. With all the talent that you have on that defensive side of the ball, especially up front, because that only helps your back end at the end of the day. And I believe that Indiana is a for real football team, because y'all brought it up earlier. They're not only winning games. The way they're winning games, you have to go beat Indiana. Indiana's not going to beat themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Next one up here. Virginia Tech, 5-4, hosting Clemson, now 6-2. Obviously, they had the loss to Georgia, but now they have a conference loss to Louisville. Clemson going to go on the road. They're still favored -6.5, Jake, and the over-under on this one right now is 52.5.
This is a game I will not be betting. I will not touch this game in betting. If you're Clemson, you have to win every game now. You have to thread the needle, and I still don't think it's going to be good enough. Even if Clemson finds a way to go 10-2, if they're not in the ACC championship game, especially looking at those rankings, I don't see a way in which they're able to claw themselves back into the top 12 unless there's absolute carnage and chaos, which, that's possible. But I'm so disappointed in Clemson defensively after what I saw last week. And you got to give credit to Louisville. You got to give them their flowers. But I was sitting here saying I think Clemson could possibly be the best team in the ACC, and I was wrong. Blaine, I want to give you credit. You talked about their strength of schedule. I look at the athletes they have, and I watched them run around. I look at Peter Woods and some of these guys, and I don't think I fell into a trap, but Clemson's been really good defensively for a long time. And that defense, at least last week, and I don't think they obviously didn't play well, but physically they didn't look like what I thought they were. And Louisville, even without Lacey, was able to expose them. So when I look at this game, I know they're going to want to get back up, right? Dabo's going to have them. You're going on the road. Sometimes that can galvanize you. But I have noticed that this Virginia Tech team, in for the second straight year, looks like they're getting better toward the end of the year. Why was everybody so high on Virginia Tech coming into this season? Well, it's because the way they finished last season. So you get them at home. But having said that, Virginia Tech did just lose to Syracuse in a heartbreaker. So they're going to want to get back up. It's hard for me to pick a side in this game. I guess I'm going to go with Clemson because I think they're going to put their best foot forward. Yeah. But I'm just really, really disappointed in Clemson's defense because they aren't who I thought they were. I think Drones, if he throws the ball well with what they like to do off the split bluff action and play action, they could find a way to score. But I like Clemson in this game. I'm just really disappointed. And I think a lot of Clemson fans are that, after the Georgia game, I know the strength of schedule wasn't great, but you bounced back. Cade Klubnik was getting hot. You felt good about that. And then Louisville just came in and beat you in every aspect. Physicality, schematically. So, they can win it. They can win out. But this Clemson team is not who I thought they were. Hey,
Blaine, the last time we had seen this Virginia Tech lose was when we were at Chuck's in Tuscaloosa and Miami, threw that pass that got overturned. It was called a touchdown. Virginia Tech loses by 4. And then after that, they beat Stanford. They beat BC. They beat Georgia Tech. And then obviously this past weekend, what Jake was alluding to, they lost an overtime heartbreaker to Syracuse. Do you like Virginia Tech plus 6.5 right now?
I think this will be a big bounce back game for Clemson. I think Dabo will have his guys ready. And look, I talked about it, and this game was during Halloween. It was my scary matchup of the week because we don't know what Clemson team we were going to see. The only Clemson team we saw was Georgia. Got run out of the building. You can say what you want. You got your ass beat. Other than that, the best team that you beat was Virginia. And I knew that Jeff Brom would have a plan for these guys that have NFL talent walking all over the place on Louisville on the offensive side of the ball. But I do think if you look at this team, I don't know how much I trust Drones to throw the ball against Clemson to a win. I think Cade and these boys bounce back, so I'm taking Clemson and the cover.
David, every time you bring up Chucks in Tuscaloosa, it just reminds me I'm never drinking sake again.
Gold Saki, baby. Come on.
Never again.
You and my
You
father-in-law,
racking
y'all are having a good time.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Never again. Talk about Z-Biotics.
I'll eat one of their ribeyes again, though. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, everything else. Look, sign me up.
All right, man. Let's preview this Texas Tech game hosting Colorado right now. This one got really interesting. Obviously, Colorado was a huge winner last weekend, and they didn't even play. That was with Kansas State and Iowa State both going down. Texas Tech 23-22 last week over Iowa State on the road. What a great defensive performance from them. I mean, this is a team that's given up they gave up 50 points in the opener earlier this year, which was wild. Texas Tech 6-3, going to host Colorado, who's 6-2, but one of those losses is out of conference to Nebraska. So they only have one conference loss to Kansas State. They're going to come in. They're favored right now by 3.5 points. That's Colorado. And the over-under is 62.5. Why do I love the over?
Yeah, I think it'd be hard not to take the over. It's probably the best bet on the board. I was really happy for Joey McGuire in that win they got last week. Not that I dislike Iowa State or anything, but you could see the emotion in his voice, how bad they needed that after the way the game ended the week before, and really how much those guys gravitate to Joey McGuire, who's a hell of a guy as well, a guy we've had on this show. But I don't know what Texas Tech I'm going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know who Colorado is. Every time I see a Colorado game, here's the question I ask myself. On the line of scrimmage, how does Colorado match up? Because if it's even close, I think Colorado has a good chance to win. And when I look at Texas Tech, I think Colorado's better than they are in some spots on the line of scrimmage. So if Colorado can just be even with you up front, they're going to be better than you everywhere else. I mean, you look at Shadur, you look at Travis. I can go down the list. So, guys, I like Colorado in this game. I think they're feeling themselves. I look at Texas Tech. Not that Texas Tech couldn't win it. Right? I'm not saying that. It's basically a pick 'em. But if I'm going to take Colorado, I'm going to take them because I think it's more even on the line of scrimmage, and that automatically gives them the built-in advantage with the skill position they have. Now, Tyler Shuck and some of the guys that Texas Tech have, they can run the checkup on Colorado's defense. But at the end of the day, if it comes down into a 7-on-7 contest, I like Colorado. I think Colorado sees a path they didn't think they were going to be in position for earlier in the year, and they've done nothing but get more confident on the line of scrimmage. I'm not worried about Shadur and them's confidence, at the skill position. They've got that in spades. You could put that in a wheelbarrow and ride it around town if you wanted to. But it's the line of scrimmage where I think they've gained confidence, and they've started to develop a little bit of depth. Guys, I like Colorado in this one.
Did you mean Baron Morton at Texas Tech?
Oh, what did I say? Tyler Shuck?
Not Tyler Shuck.
Sorry.
Baron Morton,
Shuck was at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
We were talking about Louisville. It just got
I know. No,
Baron Morton different.
I get the train of thought, but he's having a heck of a year, man.
He is, and you know what, David? If he's he's a little more athletic, right-handed version of Kellen Moore to me, because he doesn't have the best arm strength in the world, but he really understands how to anticipate the throw.
Mm-hmm.
There were some throws he made even in the red zone, right? That sometimes guys would try to fit in there, he couldn't. So yeah, Baron Morton, not Tyler Shuck, kind of had the reverse roles there. That's all.
No, I get it. Blaine, here's the thing. This is what I was saying about Colorado a year ago. They perform better as the hunters rather than the hunted. Well, now they're 6-2. They're favored in a lot of these football games moving forward because of the way they've been playing. They're ranked these last couple of weeks. Now they're going to go play a Texas Tech team coming off of a great win, a great defensive performance. Is this one of those situations where, hey, we see a Colorado team that doesn't play as well because they're getting hunted by Texas Tech?
Yeah,
or is this a different transition of a Colorado team that's like, no, we can actually play well when we're favorited now?
I think Colorado can get into the situation where they get a little comfortable. And I think that one of the scariest things in college football is a Texas Tech team at home as a dog who really wants to go out and get it. And I think they do. I will not bet this game. If I had to lead anyone this game, I will take Texas Tech and the points. Look, Colorado's a good football team. You have Travis Hunter. You have Shadur. I thought the defensive line has looked good the last couple of weeks. But I'm telling you, there's something about that place. There's something about that place at Texas Tech. You want to go play there and win a game. And a McGuire team that right now is excited and they're hungry. I think Colorado can get in that situation, a dangerous situation, to where comfortability starts creeping in a little bit.
Yeah, look, I like the over more than I like one of the sides here, but if I had to pick it, I would go with this Colorado team right now just because every time they find themselves in one of these close games, they usually tend to win it. I know that Kansas State was kind of a heartbreaking loss, but they almost won that one with minus 29 yards rushing. You guys explain to me how that's possible.
Yeah.
I'll be all ears.
The
But let's
same way
talk about
the same way that Georgia scores more points when Carson Beck throws picks than when he doesn't.
I had to tell a group of guys that statistic today after you brought it up yesterday because I still can't get over that. And for people who didn't catch yesterday's show, Georgia scoring on average 3 more points per game when Carson Beck throws multiple interceptions. That's wild. But let's talk about the holy war for a little bit. Utah 4-4 right now.
Take
Obviously,
the Catholics.
they hadn't won. They hadn't won since Cam Rising went out. It's a tough situation. They're going to play BYU undefeated, ranked. We've just been talking about them in the college football playoff rankings. The line right now is -4 BYU, and that's even with them being on the road, and 40.5 on the over/under.
I see a lot of people that are picking Utah to win this game. I understand it's a rivalry game, right? You get up; those tend to be closer. I think the Rose kid's going to play at quarterback for Utah. He came in a little bit last week. I know Zach Wilson's little brother Isaac's been struggling. There's a couple things here. I think the path to victory is way more narrow for Utah than it is for BYU. And BYU, every time anybody's doubted them, including myself, they found a way to win because Retzlaff isn't turning the ball over. You're getting all the good parts of Retzlaff, right? The improvisation, the creativity, the running, but you're not getting the bad. And that's what has separated him. And I think what has separated this BYU offense. And then again, the defense is playing better than what a lot of us thought. Utah's problem is they can't win games that somebody scores more than 17 points. What is going to have to happen, they're going to have to do what Kentucky did to Georgia and then to Ole Miss to win this game. Because BYU, if there is one area of concern defensively, it is against the run. But those are against teams that are balanced. That's what I keep saying. When you look at Michigan, people are like, well, this team, struggles to stop the run, so Michigan should have success. Well, that's great when you can throw the ball as well. But if you're a one-trick pony and I can funnel all my resources to stop one thing, I get better at my weakness, right? So I don't think Utah's ability to throw the ball is going to scare BYU. And even though BYU hasn't been great against the run, when you look at what they're giving up on an average per rush, I think they can funnel enough resources to put Utah on 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7. Utah's defense is damn good. Nobody's going to question that. But eventually, I think BYU will find a way to score. The narrow path for Utah to win this game is this. Run the ball effectively. You're going to have to average almost 4 yards a carry. That's going to win time and possession. It's going to keep the other offense off the field. And I think Retzlaff, whether it's early or whether it's late, is going to have to regress and turn the ball over a couple times, or maybe there be a big special teams return for Utah. I think this is a game that if you simulated it 100 times, BYU probably wins 70 of those times out of the 100. Not saying it couldn't happen. It's a rivalry game, but I like BYU in this one. I hate the 4. I would rather buy it down to 2.5 and probably take the under. I think the total was at 40.5 the last time I saw it. I don't know what it's at right now. Yeah, but I think the path for Utah to win this game is more narrow than BYU's. If BYU goes in there and plays well and plays consistent for 4 quarters, I don't think Utah can score enough points in the long run.
Obviously, we can talk about Cam Rising getting hurt every single week and blame all of Utah's problems on that. But I think what I find most disappointing is even with your star quarterback going down, Utah hasn't been elite in other areas to make up for that, especially coming over into the Big 12 this first year. Remember, it was those Utah teams that were so physical and so imposing on defense and ran the football well that sort of, it complemented what Cam Rising was doing at quarterback. And that's how they made it to back-to-back Rose Bowls. That's how they were back-to-back conference champions in the Big 12. Now, or in the Pac-12. Now you come over to the Big 12. I expected them to be even better on defense. I know, when they lose to TCU 13-7, the defense is saying, well, what else do we have to do? But still, I thought they'd be better in other areas, Blaine, to be able to make up for Cam Rising going down.
Well, it tells you how important a quarterback is to a football team. I mean, Cam Rising, like you go back and Utah wins a lot of games defensively. Like go back to the big games they won against big. I go back to that USC game. They won like 48-45. You know, sooner or later, you have to have that guy at quarterback to winning those football games. A defense can only go out there so many times, get a stop, go sit on the bench and watch that offense run out there and go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out until it starts wearing on you as a defensive guy. I love BYU in this game. You can take the 4, you can take the 5. I'd play it up to a touchdown. I think they are a completely better team than Utah. Utah's defense is going to be on the field the entire game. They can try to run it, but if you get up 2 scores against Utah, they're cooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Michigan.
Yep. Last preview here. Let's talk about Vanderbilt hosting South Carolina. Obviously, Vanderbilt coming off the big win at Auburn, 17-7, and then South Carolina 44-20 over Texas A&M was one of the wins of the weekend. This one's going to be here in Nashville. South Carolina favored right now -3.5, and the line on this one for the points is 45.5.
Yeah. Here's, if you're South Carolina, where you've got to take the next step, because they've been so inconsistent. You've seen really good and you've seen really bad. We know how athletic South Carolina is, and I'm going to get into that defensively in a minute because I think there's a factor in this game that's really going to tilt it one way. But for South Carolina to go the places that Shane Beamer wants to take them, they have to become a more consistent football team. And it's not just playing good after a tough loss. I say this all the time. It's a lot easier to get up and play better after you lost, right? Because you want to get back out there and prove everybody wrong. A lot easier to play better after you lost. It's harder after a big win. Can the South Carolina team grow up? Can they grow up and say, you know what? Yeah, we won a big game. We should win a big game, but now we've got to go win another game and play well. Can they stack a good performance with a good performance when maybe the lights aren't as bright? And that's why I think going on the road, as crazy as this sounds, is an advantage for South Carolina. I think it is going to narrow that focus a little bit more, and you have to take Vanderbilt seriously. How healthy is Diego Pavia? If Diego Pavia cannot run around and create, which if he is the way he was against Auburn, and he played that whole game, you could tell he was very limited. Vanderbilt cannot operate they want to offensively, and South Carolina is incredibly athletic in that front seven, and they will hunt him down the whole game. Yeah. And you got an offense that's getting more confident and more confident and more confident with Lenora Sellers. And Vanderbilt got away with it last week because Auburn's offense is like watching an old person die. It's just the worst, and it's awful. So I don't think Vanderbilt can get away with a Diego Pavia that can't create offensively against this South Carolina team that is coming in, that the run game exploded last week against a very talented front seven in A&M. So I like South Carolina in this game. I can't believe I'm saying that due to the lack of consistency, but I think Diego Pavia, his health is a big issue for them offensively because he can't sit there in the pocket and just dissect you with this front seven that's going to be coming at him for 4 quarters here in Nashville.
Who would have thought, quickly, David, who'd have thought Jake would have said, I can't believe I'm saying, but South Carolina is going to beat Vanderbilt on
I know.
After that performance, too, there should be nothing surprising about it. That's why I was going to ask you, Blaine, does Vandy do it again?
No, I don't think so. The thing about this South Carolina team, one, they're huge. These guys are giants. Lenore Sellers, giant. Rocket, giant. The things they have running outside a receiver, giants and fast. And on defense, it's almost like I get scared watching him run around and hit people. Like the thing about South Carolina, if they're going to get to Diego Pavia, they're going to make him feel it every time.
Oh, they get you. They get you. There ain't no, what do they say? There ain't no such thing as a halfway crook.
Yeah.
No.
South Carolina just seems like one of those teams, right? They've been in the shallows, back to that Dan Campbell speech. They've been in the shallows this entire time playing with these little teams. But if South Carolina can get a hold of you, right, and they can get a hold of you and start dragging your ass out to that deep water, South Carolina has the guys on that team that will bury you. So I wouldn't be surprised to see South Carolina kind of put it up a little bit against Vanderbilt.
Definitely. All right, let's get to the chat.
All right, let's go to the NH. What's up, man? He says the Gamecocks are damn good. Should have beat Bama. I wouldn't be surprised if they run the rest of their schedule.
Well, I mean, Clemson looks a lot more gettable. I mean, think about how we feel about the South Carolina-Clemson game now as opposed to a couple weeks ago. That one's totally flipped on its head. And you talk about getting some momentum for Shane Beamer going into the offseason with a young quarterback and some really young, talented players on that team with Nicholas Harbor, with Dylan Stewart, some of these other guys. It's with what he can do to the transfer portal. This is a humongous momentum swing for for South Carolina if they can finish strong down the stretch.
Well, if South Carolina wins out, that would be 6 wins in a row to end the year, and they would finish at 9-3, and that would be wins over Vanderbilt, Missouri at home, Wofford at home, and then you'd have to beat Clemson on the road.
Which means you are a win against Bama over then a game against Bama that you should have really won
when you got the onside kick,
getting in the playoff.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Jackson. What's up, man? He says, where would y'all rank South Carolina's defense in the SEC?
I think they're top 5.
Yeah, I think so too. And Blaine talking about how big these players are. That's true. They're also young, though, right?
Yeah.
That's what kind of creates that inconsistency from week to week.
Very true.
All right, let's go to Matt. Matt, what's up? He says, do we know the health of Mazio Bennett out for Vanderbilt in this game? Is he going to be playing or
I don't know. And Vanderbilt, if you look, and again, this is where, and Clark Lee is trying to build the depth where Vandy still isn't to that point where they have enough depth where you can get away with some of these things later in the year, right? We always say it's a battle of attrition when it comes down to it. Get to a couple donos, Blaine.
All right, let's go to a $10 donation from the Maction. Appreciate it, brother. He says, Blaine, I've always hated you because of the things you said about South Carolina, but after that, I've now forgiven you, my friend. Welcome to Gamecock Country. Hey,
you can say 9 bad things, but you say one good thing, reel them right back in.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Blake Pete. Appreciate it. What happens if Indiana was to beat Ohio State? Little flip here, but loses to Oregon in the Big Ten championship and SMU beats Miami in the ACC championship? I didn't get to this earlier, so sorry if it's a little bit off topic, but I wanted to go ahead and get it out.
No. So you're saying he said, what if Indiana beats Ohio State and then loses to Oregon in the
conference,
Big Ten in conference? I think they all 3 get in. I think they all 3 get in because that would give Ohio State 2 losses, and Indiana would have 1 loss. I mean, that's probably best case scenario for Tony Petitti, to be honest with you, if you're trying to get the most Big Ten teams in. Because if that happens, then Penn State finishes 11-1, which could happen. Then those 4 are definitely getting in. As far as SMU, he said, what if SMU beats Miami?
Correct.
Then Miami's still going to get in at 12-1.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, again, if you're one of these bubble teams that's not in the Big Ten, like that's where, like, again, Notre Dame, I'm telling you, is the outlier. They could eat that last spot up. So I just a lot can happen, but just let SMU get to that ACC championship game. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's maybe where a 10-2 Clemson team gets left out, right? Like if you're 10-2 in Clemson and you don't make the conference championship game because you lost to Louisville, then you're probably just pulling from Miami, who's already undefeated, to blow SMU out, get them out of the way, and hope that your brand recognition gets you selected as one of the at-large spots.
And that's where, again, if we're going to look at bid stealers, what happens in the Big 12? Like if you're somebody that's not in the Big 12 that's on the bubble, you want BYU to go undefeated and win the conference championship, because that probably means that the Big 12 is only getting 1 team in, right? That's what you're hoping for. So there's so much that if this happens, it affects this. Like that's why it's so hard to project this right now.
Let's go to a $5 donation from James. James, appreciate it. Says, guys, am I crazy, or is Lenore Sellers, before his career is done at South Carolina, good enough to win the Heisman Trophy?
From a creativity standpoint, from an ability standpoint, from a versatility standpoint, yes. I've got to see him more as a passer, though. I've got to see that evolution as a pocket passer before. I think he's a natural thrower of the ball. I've seen him throw the fastball. I've seen him throw the changeup. I think he's got it in him. I don't think it's a Joe Milton situation where, you can throw it 80 yards, but you can't throw it to me accurately 8 yards. I think he has that accuracy. So again, he's going to do nothing but get better, and they're going to continue to add weapons around him. So I would lean yes, that it's a possibility. I wouldn't say it's likely though yet, because I've got to see him evolve more as a passer.
$3 donation from Pennywise. That's terrifying in itself. He says, will Notre Dame join a damn conference for the love of God?
Well, I mean, if you're Notre Dame, number one, you don't have to do anything. You're waiting on this Super League, right? That's going to be the thing that pulls you there, right? That's going to be the last step. But if you're Notre Dame, and David, you brought this scenario up earlier. I mean, you went out and you go 11-1, not playing in a conference championship game actually kind of kicks ass, dude. So now you're not going to have 2 losses because, again, that they didn't tell you how are they going to handle teams that lose conference championship games. We don't know the answer to that. So an 11-1 Notre Dame, you don't have to worry about it. You weren't getting a bye anyway.
You should have to play the group of 5 team.
Like you weren't getting but you can't get a bye anyway. So why even risk it? I mean, I actually think if I'm Notre Dame, I'm looking around saying, man, not getting in a conference was a brilliant move.
And we'll have to see how it plays out. Obviously, if Notre Dame can get into a 12-team playoff at 10-2, then what you're saying is right, because they're like, wait, we can lose 2 games and still get in. Why would we take the risk of playing a conference championship game? What we have been saying, and we don't know exactly what the committee will do, though, we've been saying since you don't have the benefit or the risk of playing the conference championship game, then you really can't get in at 10-2 the way some of these other teams can. You have to go 11-1. At which case, if they were 11-1 and then played in a conference title and lost, and they were 11-2, I don't think the second loss would hurt them so much.
Well, and see, David, I in 90% of cases, I agree with what you just said. But here's the difference. You lost to Northern Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
If this Notre Dame team lost to Texas A&M that first game, and then Texas A&M went on to do what they're doing, we wouldn't look at that like an awful loss. And we'd say, you know what? If USC's good and you went out there and you lost that game and you were 10-2, they're probably getting in. I think it's the type of 10-2 that gets you in, right? But the fact that you lost to Northern Illinois, to me, made you now have to thread that needle even more. And the back end of your schedule with Florida State doesn't look as dangerous anymore, right? With USC doesn't look as dangerous anymore. So I think it's a circumstantial thing, but 90% of cases, you're 100% right. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, and I agree. Look, the Northern Illinois loss, there's no excuse for it. That's a terrible loss for Notre Dame any season that you play football. But if you win that game and you lose the Texas A&M game the way you're talking about, then you've created this flip side of that, which is, okay, well, yeah, sure, Notre Dame beat all the teams they were supposed to, but they lost all the big games, and they really only had Texas A&M in the opener, and guess what? They lost it. So why do they deserve to get in? It's this weird situation where it's like, okay, well, at least you have a great win. Your great win is just diminished because your loss is so ugly.
Yeah, it's all circumstantial. All right, one more, and then we'll move.
All right, let's go to a $2 donation from JC. Appreciate it, man. If another team wins the Big 12 outside of BYU, let's say Colorado, do they get in over an undefeated Army team who wins the conference and a 1-loss Boise State? So who wins the Mountain West?
Well, I mean, if BYU goes 12-1, they're going to get in. I think BYU is going to be ranked high enough to get in. That's why, again, I think some BYU fans are nervous about that 9 number, because where do they finish if they do go 12-0, right? Yeah. Do they finish like 7 or like 6 and then a loss in the – we don't know that. I don't know the answer to the conference championship game. But what I will say is that if Colorado wins the Big 12, they're going to get in. They're going to get one of the first – they're going to get a bye too, right? They're going to be one of the top 4 seeds. I think that the question is Army. But, again, for Army to do – what you said, that means they would beat Notre Dame, which would eliminate Notre Dame, which would open up a spot. So we ran through the scenario of, could that be the only way that 2 group of 5 teams get in? And to this point, I think it is. I'm again wondering, and I'll ask, is a win over Notre Dame worth more than a close loss to the number 1 team in the country in Oregon? If you're the committee and only 1 group of 5 team can get in, do you look in and say, well, Boise State's in the Mountain West, Army's in the American, which conference is better there? I think an undefeated Army with a win over Notre Dame, if 1 group of 5 team gets in, it should be them.
I agree.
All right. But for 1 second, I'm going to get to the NFL, but I want to talk about our friends over at Raycon and their best-selling everyday earbuds. Now, I jog around the neighborhood. I'm sure a lot of y'all do. A lot of y'all work out. I want to have earbuds that don't fall out of my ears. I want to have earbuds that have noise cancellation. I want my earbuds to be able to charge quick, and they got a new quick charge function. You charge it for 10 minutes, you get 90 minutes of battery, and the design is very, very comfortable. It fits a wide range of ears. If you got ears like an elephant or ears like a mouse, don't worry. They got optimized gel tips for a cozy and custom fit. Cone, I know you use them. Blaine, I know you use them when you're working out as well, trying to get jacked and tan in the gym.
Always.
And the fact is, even the things that are supposed to just work seamlessly nowadays, they often don't. All right. And it's even more frustrating when it comes to the stuff you use every day, like these earbuds. So head to buyraycon.com/booster. It's a great Christmas gift, stocking stuffer if you want, birthday gift, male, female, whatever. It doesn't matter, what you think. You just want to have the best earbuds you possibly can. You need to go to buyraycon.com. And when you go to buyraycon.com/booster, you get 20 to 50% off the whole site. they've got a ton of great stuff as well. Like, it's not just the earbuds. They've got a ton of great stuff site-wide. So go to BYURAYCON.com/booster for that 20 to 50% off site-wide Raycon earbuds. Have you heard about it?
I love mine, man.
Dude,
No, they work so bad it pisses me off. It's to the point now where they won't fall out of my ears. I will try to make them fall out of my ears by running.
Well, nothing used to piss me off more than when they had when you had the earbuds with the wires. You know, they had the wire and you're running and like you hit one with your arm and it flies out of your ear. It's just, I don't have to worry about it. Like Blaine said, I could be running during an earthquake, a volcano, or a hurricane. They could drop me upside down out of a helicopter and them things ain't moving.
They do not fall out.
All right, let's get a little NFL best and worst here, Coney.
All right, who's up first today with the best?
I'll go first.
Okay.
All right.
My best is the Washington Commanders, and not just because of Jaden Daniels, not just because of this great start, and not just because I'm hoping they'll change their name back to the Redskins.
Thank you.
It's because people want to go play there now. What a better compliment if you are Jaden Daniels or if you're Dan Quinn. Think about how badly this team was managed under Snyder. Think about the laughing stock they were. You don't want to go to Washington, D.C. in the first place unless you're a politician or you're crazy. But especially with the way that thing was getting run, the way the organization was getting run under Snyder. Now, hell, it's Disneyland, man. You got guys lining up wanting to go in the free agency. It's cool to play in D.C. It is actually cool to play in D.C. now. So, yes, the wins are great. The fan base is fired up. All that is nice. But the biggest compliment is when grown men want to go play for your team because A, you're damn good. B, it looks like a whole heck of a lot of fun. And C, it looks like the future is going to stay that way with some of the young talent. I mean, Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson Jr., go down the list of the guys they got. It's just a great time for Washington, and I'm really excited for that organization because they needed something good to happen. So, Cleveland, you next or what?
Hey, great time to change the name back, Blaine. What do you think?
Oh, the perfect time. Not only them, but let's also get the Indians back.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. My best this weekend, guys, I don't know if you've heard. All right, I don't know if you saw, but an alien, all right, has landed, came down in Philadelphia, and is apparently playing running back for the Eagles because Saquon Barkley did something my brain can't comprehend. Please pull up the clip.
Yeah, this is...
Okay, yeah, no shot, fake reverse spin. What are you doing?
Dude, like, how did you even... Blaine, you said, like, watch right here. You had to think about doing this, like, just in the locker room telling somebody. There's no way you did that on the spot.
That is impossible. Like, that is impossible thing. No-looked reverse hurdled somebody.
Well, you know
There's not buttons. There's not buttons you can click on a video game to do that.
You know it's real. What, like the sideline reaction you can't see in those clips, but when you watch guys that have played football that long at a high level react to a 8-yard gain like that, then I've never seen that. I've never.
I'm so unathletic.
Do that. Well, it's just
Come on, man.
Who comes up with that, Cone?
I don't know. This hurdling over people thing, even forwards, that wasn't really something a lot of players were doing when I was playing. That kind of developed after. Hurdling over them backwards, yeah, the best players in the world are looking at you on the sideline in awe.
I mean, he basically started an OnlyFans account on the field.
Yeah, I'll pay.
Yeah, thanks. The Giants sent him to Philly. All right, now we got DeAndre Hopkins in Kansas City. So great thing going on there. For my best, I want to talk about the Chargers, man. Look, I don't know Brandon Staley personally. He's probably a great guy, but the job that I was watching him do these last few seasons, I said, how is a head coach not getting more out of this Chargers team that's clearly very talented on both sides of the ball? Well, guess what? Insert Jim Harbaugh. And as much as it pains me to not see Jim Harbaugh up and down that Michigan sideline anymore wearing maize and blue, this was a perfect opportunity for him to come into this Los Angeles Chargers team and do what he always does, boys, turn things around. He turned Stanford around. He turned the San Francisco 49ers around when they hadn't had a playoff appearance in 13 years. He turned Michigan around, and he's doing it again with the Chargers here. Now, they're 5-3. They don't have a great win on the schedule yet, but back-to-back wins now over the Saints and at the Browns, 27-10 this past weekend, and they're going to get their shot against great competition because after they play the Titans, they're going to get the Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, and Bucks 5 weeks in a row. So they're going to get their opportunity, but they look so balanced on both sides of the ball. Jim Harbaugh is getting the most out of Justin Herbert. The players look confident. The younger guys are growing. Quentin Johnson, remember everybody was like, oh, well, he's a bust because he didn't dominate in his first year. Now look at what he's doing. Ladd McConkey proved to be a great pick. And that defense, man, Jesse Minter took a defense that was ranked in the 20s multiple seasons in a row under a defensive guy ranked number 1 right now in the NFL.
And you know what I love about like storylines in the NFL? I'm watching the Chargers ball watching Red Zone and watching them ball. And it's so funny. Jim Harbaugh was on the sidelines coaching Michigan when Quentin Johnson and the Davis kid, Dario Davis, were cooking Michigan in that game. And now he's helping them with the Chargers. And guys, the more I watch the NFL, the more I see that TCU team. I watched Mercado come in for the Cardinals at running back and absolutely skate. Just skate. So it's always funny when you have some guys that beat you in college, then you go and you join the same NFL team and you ball together. I just find that kind of a cool thing. But my worst is something we talked about the other day, and it's the Bucs not going for 2 against the Chiefs to basically win the game at the end. If there was ever a time, all right, and I'm all for game flow. I'm not one of those, we're on the road, so we're going to go for 2 to win the game no matter what, or we're at home, so we're going to force it to overtime. The flow of the game matters. Are you the better team or not? Is it safer for you to try and kill them then or elongate this thing because you're better than them and eventually gravity's going to take hold? But if there was ever a time at the end of the game to go for 2 to try and win it, it was this one. On the road in Kansas City against Patrick Mahomes, speaking of aliens. Because guess what? If I've got to give you the ball back, I want to give you the ball back with the least amount of time possible, and I don't want this thing to go to overtime. So if it's me and I'm on the road playing Patrick Mahomes, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, he's going to find a way to get you, but it's hard for him to get you when he's on the sidelines. I was shocked that the Buccaneers did not go for 2, and they tried to play the long game with Patrick Mahomes. You might as well close your eyes and try and get out of one of those saw rooms with that old guy that pretended to be dead on the floor the whole time.
God, that's tough. So true, though. My worst, and you might be a little bit surprised by this because they did win last time they played. It's the Titans. You might have beat the Patriots 20-17, but I keep watching Titans players. DeAndre Hopkins at the Chiefs. 2 touchdowns, 9 catches, almost 100 yards. I'm watching Derrick Henry run over everybody in the NFL. And the Titans are that team that just have all the great players. It's like the Sacramento Kings in basketball. We'll draft all the best players, but 2 years later, we're going to give them to somebody else. You let Hop go, Hop will ball for the Chiefs. Watch. He will absolutely ball out for the Chiefs. Right now,
remember the Titans.
Yeah, right now, Titans, poverty.
Wow.
Poverty.
Diego poverty.
A week after they win, tough crowd out here, man.
I mean Patriots poverty.
I'm going to stay in the AFC West for my worst, and I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. How in the world they beat the Ravens on the road in week 2, I don't understand. But right now, 5 straight losses. Obviously lost at the Bengals this past weekend, 41-24. Things just it's not working out right now in Las Vegas. And there's so many of these pieces that are really great. When you look at the way Brock Bowers has been playing, he's come in. You clearly have awesome young tight ends
Max
and get Max Crosby. And it sounds like they're not going to trade Max Crosby. Obviously, the deadline now come and gone. But 2-7 on the season. It's not looking great, and I think they're starting to play their way into one of those top 3, top 5 quarterback conversations for the draft next year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to the chat, Blainasium.
All right, I'm going to roll through these donations. If you donated today, guys, thank you so much. Let's start off with a $5 donation from Falcon642. Says, what kind of cleansing ritual did Cone have to do after voting for some from the Ohio State University? Was goat's blood involved?
Oh, for Vance. Yeah, that was the only part. That last ad that the Trump team put out right before the election was the most perfect video I've ever seen, except for him wearing that Buckeye shirt.
Well, do you know how long it took Cone to build that wooden owl they had to burn down after he did that?
Let's go to a $5 donation from Tyler. What's up, Tyler? Here to celebrate with the Booster Club. Was informed today that I won Teacher of the Year for the school that I teach at.
Yeah.
Look, we expect dominance. We expect
Todd.
dominance in the Booster Club. Perfection or nothing. Soviet Union planes do not crash.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Matt. Appreciate it, Matt. He says, fellas, big Penn State fan here. I don't know how good we are. Do you think we are a playoff team?
I mean, yeah, I think you're a playoff team. It's just when you get there, can you beat anybody? I'm just still so disappointed in Andy Kotelnicki's play calling in that game. Maybe it was a one-off. Maybe getting up 10-0 was the worst thing that could have happened. I literally keep going back to that because it's like, all right, guys, we're up 10-0. Will Howard's just saying, come get it, boys. Like, let's just not screw this up. I was hoping this team is different, and they may still be. We'll see. But, like, here's the question. Here's the overall question. Is it more about, like, they need to see Ohio State or Georgia or Oregon and beat them? Because what if they get in the playoff and they got, like, you know, somebody that's not super duper elite and they beat them? Like, are we still going to believe, like, all right, Penn State can win it all? I think y'all got to take down one of the Avengers. Like, it's not going to y'all can't beat up a bank robber and then me think y'all are a bunch of badasses. Y'all got to beat up one of the Avengers.
Yeah, that was the thing with Michigan last year. It was like you had to go through Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Going through Florida State wasn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
$3 donation from the Doghouse. He says, guys, is Brock Bowers playing himself to a top 5 tight end already in the NFL?
Not shocked.
Yeah, he's
Not
on my
shocked
fantasy
at all.
team.
Good.
I picked him up late in fantasy too.
He's so good.
He is, and it's unfortunate that the Raiders are so bad around him because his versatility. You wondered, like, you knew he was going to be good, but you wondered if that versatility was going to transfer to the NFL like it did in college, because Brock Bowers did so many things. He's still able to do all of those things. Yeah, he's an absolute stud. We all knew he was going to be, though. If you watched him play at Georgia, real recognize real.
$3 donation from I'm So White. Congratulations on that. He says, Signetti, mom's spaghetti, fellas. Mom's spaghetti.
Dude, hey, look, I'm telling you right now, I've already said I think Army's going to beat Notre Dame. But this Indiana, and they got to play Michigan, right? You got to beat Michigan. Don't give me more confidence this weekend. Don't give me more confidence this weekend. I'll mess around and pick y'all's ass against Ohio State.
A fan of the show asked me today to ask you guys. He wanted to know, would you take Kirk Signetti at Auburn right this second, or would you stick with Hugh Freeze?
Give me Kirk Signetti. You're undefeated at Indiana.
Give me Kurt Signetti.
No way.
Vanderbilt.
Give me Signetti.
Yeah,
wow.
Spaghetti.
I mean, we're guaranteeing these results. Like, I need to.
No, I'm not. No, I can't do all that. I don't know what he would do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I still get mom spaghetti. I'm fine with it. $5 donation from David's favorite Badger. Happy Humpy Badger Wednesday. Cone, do you think Wisconsin having a bye week before playing Oregon on the 16th gives them a chance to pull the upset?
I most certainly do not.
Yeah, it's like, I appreciate you thinking that. I think they could have 2.5 months.
All right, last donation of the day, $5 donation from JD. Appreciate it, man. He says, guys, first time finding y'all show. Definitely have a new subscriber here. Keep up the really
it's amazing.
good
Somebody
analysis,
says that every
man.
show. That really makes me feel good.
Appreciate all the donations today, guys.
All right. Well, Cone, we got any parting thoughts here? Is there anything you're hot on tonight?
No, nothing tonight. You guys going to watch some college basketball? What's the latest on that right now?
Dude, I'm not ready. I'm not
ready either.
Ready.
No,
that's what I was
ready.
Feeling, but
We just
my
lost to
body's
Vanderbilt.
so
I'm not
ready.
ready.
Yeah. You're already dialed in, Jake.
Oh yeah. No, I've been watching.
I swear Jake loves college basketball more than football.
No, I don't.
I swear he does.
I don't.
I swear he won't admit it to you, but deep down, being his brother and around him on every basketball, football game, this guy loves basketball. So you want
Auburn
basketball? College basketball.
Yeah, nobody likes the NBA.
Who's on tonight, Jake?
Look, Auburn plays Vermont tonight. It was a lighter slate yesterday. Obviously, it kicked off Monday. I watched Duke play, watched Kentucky play. I think Arkansas tips off tonight as well to start the Calipari era. What I'm ready is for these tournaments to start, like the Battle of Atlantis, or that one where they go on like an aircraft carrier and play like somewhere in the Indian Ocean or something, whatever it is. I can't wait. The Maui Invitational, which we've been invited to every year. But no, I always like
Auburn's on tonight. Auburn,
Say it again?
Vermont. Auburn and Vermont's playing tonight. Creighton's playing UT Rio Grande Valley, and Indiana's playing SIU Edwardsville.
Yep. Great places.
Bro, I tried to watch
Great places.
I tried to watch some of the women's college basketball, right? Because it's so different without Clayton and them. Juju Watkins at USC is nice, but I watched USC play Ole Miss. It ended up being a good game, but I just can't. I don't know, man. Like there was just like 3 straight minutes where it was just tough.
Yeah, but at least they're chicks.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I'm trying to support.
Amen.
I'm trying to support.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody being here. We're gonna have calls back hopefully tomorrow. Yes. We're gonna be in studio. See me put my big boy pants on. We appreciate you guys joining us. Hit that subscribe button. Y'all are the best. Booster Club for life.
Have a day
Regardless
tonight.
of who won the election, let's all just get pissed about sports again. All right, at each other. That's the best way to do it. And like the chances of me not being excited of watching college basketball, we're going. Gone.